But let's get started so we can, take advantage of our hour.
All right.
Welcome, everyone.
And we are very fortunate today to have with us Reverend Dr. Marilyn Pagan. Thanks. I was afraid that I was going to really mess it up somewhere. She is the executive director of A Just Harvest, which is one of our mission projects. And but she's a very busy lady because she's also pastor of St. Lucas United Church of Christ, and also an adjunct professor at McCormick and Garrett Seminary. And she's a published writer. The list kind of goes on and on. So we're really excited. And I think especially so because there are several people, as we've indicated, that have volunteered at A Just Harvest and kind of really feel a kinship to what's happening there. So I will turn it over to you. Oh, were you going to say something?
No, I just want to say welcome. I'm so happy you're here. Fellow clergy, and I don't think we've met before.
No, like that.
I used to live 3 blocks from Sheridan on the corner, well, just right before the bend that goes to the cemetery. And for years I'd walk over and help with the project. And it's called a different name by then. So I'm really glad we're still invested there in that community. So welcome.
We probably were neighbors because I live on Bosworth, just near John Paul.
Okay.
Yeah, Juneway is the next street that before we turn.
I think Juneway is the street. I was on the corner of Juneway and Sheridan, right on the the west side of the street. So, yeah.
Well, thank you, first of all, for the invitation. I'm really, really grateful to be here. Anytime I get to visit one of our partner congregations, I really do get excited. And to be honest, it was already on the agenda because we are in our 40th year at A Just Harvest, and we want to say thank you to all of our partners. And so we put together some thank you gifts for each of our partners, and I'm so glad that you invited me because I'm like, oh, I can drop it off in person. My plan is to drop them off in person, but you just never know. And so thank you so much. I do want to share that we had an artist design these for our partners. So all of our partners are getting one of these, and they're handmade, hand painted, and she is an undocumented artist that we were supporting last year as our artist in residence. And just to mention, these 3 books, this one I am published in, and it's actually very useful for worship because it's all of the Psalms in conversation with women, 10 different women who responded to the Psalms. And then we got the Oldest Moth Dancing in the Darkness. He was our speaker for our annual meeting. And then Explore, I'm also in there, and I tell the story of my call to A Just Harvest. And so this is a good vocation book that this group put together that's useful for Christian ed. So we weren't just trying to give you books because my name was in it, but that they would be, a blessing to the community as you all have been a blessing to us. And so I present that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
These are all excellent books.
And let me just say that I want to start the conversation by saying, again, thank you, and also by listening to the ones who do volunteer and hearing sort of what your relationship is, how you feel about the work with the Just Harvest, and then start there, because I want to be able to, respond and not just come with all this stuff.
That's a great idea. You want to go around the circle? Everyone who has volunteered with the Just Harvest, give us some.
Or just say your name anyway.
Yes.
Just to.
Connie Youngberg, and I have volunteered. The staff there is absolutely incredible. They are kind and funny and welcoming and efficient. They know what their job is. They do their job. Working with them is just a total pleasure. And one of the times, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
There was one incident where a woman came in who clearly had severe mental issues, and they knew her and they knew how to handle her to keep her calm, and they took care of her with such dignity and kindness. It was lovely.
Nina Johnson, and I used to help on Monday nights. Long years, okay.
Thank you.
I'm Madge Ken, and I volunteer sometimes.
I'm Lynn McKay. I haven't volunteered recently, but we used to volunteer as a family when our kids, and it was a very wonderful experience for them. They loved to volunteer.
I'm John Jansen, and I call myself a PK, preacher's kid. And my father was a minister, and so this attending things like this and the service is very important to me. And then and Alan knows, if he says anything that in his sermon that isn't quite exactly correct.
He'll roast you later.
I don't need a homiletics professor to help me.
Editor.
Got an editor. From the Tribune, no doubt. Right.
And I'm Carol Jansen, and I used to organize when we did all of the cooking ourselves, I used to organize that for quite a while, and we used to do that as a family. And I have to tell you a really cute story. We have a handicapped daughter, she's cognitively impaired. And she used to come with us and help, and she would pass out the bread or, whatever, and she loved doing it. And now she lives at Little City, which is an organization where she's housed, and they have vocational programs and day programs and so on. When she's not working, one of the things that's organized is Feed My Sheep. I don't know if you know that, but I'm not sure exactly how it works, but she loves going to Feed My Sheep, and she always says, Mom, it's just like when we used to go to the soup kitchen. So it really, it's really significant that made an impact on her, and she still feels, even with her limited ability, she feels like she can really give back. So that's a tremendous gift.
I'm Nancy Fox. I'm currently one of the scheduled people at Just Harvest, and I'm like Carol's daughter, and any little thing that goes on there that I pick up on impresses me. And so I recently met one of your volunteers who comes, by the way, from close to Indiana. I don't know if it's every day or not, but she's born in Ireland. Her father was Black and her mother was Irish, and her name is Arthur, but that's Gaelic for some girl's name. And I fell in love with this little girl, although she really isn't little, and she's very artistic and interested, and I feel like I'm looking at somebody who could get a break, could be a genius. She's an artist, interested in art, so I want her to live with me or something like that.
You want to go in the back?
Yes.
Oh, sure. I do not go to Chicago much anymore, although I went to school there. I grew up taking the train there. Now I live north and don't get around too well, and it seems like a large trip to go to the city. So, but I've heard about Just Harvest through our church for a long, long time, and I know what a wonderful organization it is. And, but right now I can't really do too much other than support it.
Thank you.
Betty Carvel. You remember?
I'm Tom Evans, and prior to the pandemic, I would volunteer once or twice a year for many years, with my two sons, from time to time. I would sometimes volunteer by myself, so, I echo Connie's, comments about the staff, and how it's organized. Superb.
And I'm Andrew Zachary, and I should be ashamed to have not volunteered, considering that I live not far from you guys. I should make time.
Look at what you're missing.
So in the near future.
You're always welcome.
I'm Julia Hedberg, and I have volunteered
frequently at night. And I'm sorry that we only do it at lunchtime now because a lot of people work, it's hard to find volunteers. But it is a delight, and I've gone with the two of them and we'll go again in February. And I am impressed with the staff, that they understand us novices and are very kind.
Direction.
And tell us what to do each time, and they're very understanding. I don't understand how, and I'm eager to hear what you have to say about that it's only once a month that we go. Who fills in all the other times?
Well, see, we're just introducing ourselves and saying if, you're just introducing ourselves, but if you've been to Just Harvest and know about it, you can comment on that.
I'm Lois Eve Anderson, and for years, once a month, I've gone and served. It's a wonderful program.
Okay, Conway. And I would also like to speak to the staff, and the woman who runs the line is Mrs. T.
Mama
And
T.
she is, Mama T, and she is truly the mama. She's in charge, and we all cluster around her, and she always kind of checks on everything, and everyone kind of knows that they need to, am I doing it right? Is it okay? And if you're not, she'll get you on the right path. It's a lovely thing just to watch them work together.
I've already kind of said, but I usually, really, it's just kind of behind me, is where you are, and so we would walk back there and walk over, and sometimes we would bring folks from the church. When I was in charge of mission doing at the time, and I'm back here as the interim until as late as the end of September. I'm an associate doing pretty much what I did 20-something years ago. So, but I really enjoyed the mission connection, that it was in my neighborhood and I was making a difference and getting to know some of the faces of people I saw on the streets as well, too. So,
And Greg Ferzanos, I haven't been, but now I think I want to learn more, see what I can do to help, so thank you.
how, is there an age limit for taking kids?
But typically we say 12, but if let's say you come and you bring your children, that's fine. We can't bring a group of anybody under 12, but if you wanna bring a group of kids, then they have to be at least 12.
Right.
Okay, well, bring the twins are 10,
Yeah,
but I think they're big enough to
yeah.
help with.
And so we've had families bring their children, but not like groups. Yeah.
Not a group. Thank you.
I think someone else walked in.
Yes.
Oh, it's me. I'm supposed to give my name, I suppose.
And if what you're connected, have you volunteered with the Just Harvest before?
No, but my name is Eleanor Prince, first of all, but I attended the grammar school across the street for about 8.5 years.
Well, thank you so much. It's wonderful to hear your connections and your comments, especially about the team. I will pass those along. They are wonderful. I let folks know, I might be the ED, but they make everything happen. And they're the ones that keep the work and the heart of the work going. And I'm so appreciative to hear your comments about them. It's not just in my own head, but that is true. I've been executive director for 21 years now. I am in my 22nd year. And from hearing what you've been saying and what we've been working towards since my time there, is just a blessing that we are in these relationships that are not transactional, but that they're relational. Like, we do this work together because we care about each other. Not just because y'all got the money and we need it, even though y'all got the money and we need it. But that there's an intentional, that's the reason it was set up the way that it was, and that it is that we do this work together as much as we can. And we know that there's different capacities. We know that there's different abilities within a context of the partner. We have some partners, like Winneka Congregation used to do, I think, 2 nights a month, and then things shifted, right? Or then we had more folks pre-COVID, and now post-COVID, we don't have every day filled like we used to. So we do have a calendar with different congregations that come. For example, first Monday is Kenilworth Union Church. Then we have like a fifth Saturday, that's St. Peter's and Skokie, things, so it all depends. And then it also depends on, again, the means from the congregation. Kenworth Union Church, to use them as an example, since the guy that was connected was our former board president, and so I can talk about him. He talks about me all the time. Or about the church, they would provide everything. Right, and then during COVID, they even would provide everything and then have it delivered. Because they had the capacity to do that. Then we have other partners, like, for example, Rogers, our Presbyterian Church, which is a smaller congregation, a ministry congregation, like a urban ministry type of congregation. So that means that they don't have the resources to do as much. So they would do the salad and the fruit, for example, right? And then we knew that we had to, gather up the rest and prepare the rest. So I'm just giving a context of how we feel those days, and they vary. And the team, David, as y'all know, Mama T might run the line, but David's the one who keeps the resources coming in. And David and Mark are just wonderful with our partners. And Kai was asking about the donations, like there's just rhythm. Again, I can't take any credit for it, with what they call the farmers markets over the summers. So we would get all the donations that were left from a particular market David has a relationship with. We helped to start the Hunger Resource Network. And so again, not only gathering donations, but figuring out how do we pass on, from the abundance, if we have the abundance and can't serve it in our community. For example, we had a partner from Sunset Foods that would bring donations every Wednesday, produce, and he would pick up from us meat donations that we would receive that maybe we couldn't use because it's a package of chicken, a package, nothing that we can use in bulk. So we would pack that up and he would take it, the guy who would bring us from Sunset Foods would take it to a South Side pantry he worked with because they needed the meat, right? So we always sort of function in this way because we know that we can't do this work alone. We know everybody's struggling, even congregations that are a little more wealthy are struggling, because of COVID, because of the economy, because of loss of life, all different reasons, right? Shifting in families and communities. And so we're not trying to figure out, well, how do we get more, but how do we collaborate in such a way that, that we're keeping the work going, not because we want to keep the doors open as a nonprofit, because we don't. Our work is to put ourselves out of business because no one will be hungry, right? But in the meantime, we want to make sure that we can continue to do the work because people are hungry. Guess how many households experience food insecurity in Chicago?
More than we can expect.
1 in 5.
Oh my God.
It's getting worse.
It's
right?
getting worse. I just looked it up just to make sure I wasn't making up things. It used to be 1 in 7, and let me double check. 1 in 5 experience food insecurity. That means you're not sure if you're gonna have enough to eat. You're not sure that if you eat that last bag of beans, what you're gonna eat tomorrow.
It's still just, for those of us have so much, it's hard to imagine. And yet I know it's true. And very disturbing.
And so, after 40 years, we do the work. We're grateful for the partnerships. We're intentional about relationship because we're not content with the fact that, hey, well, at least we're still here, and thank God we're still here. And yes, thank God we're still here, but something's wrong, right? And for those of us who follow Jesus, we know that Jesus fed the hungry and spoke out against those things that kept people hungry. And I often remind people when I go to different congregations and they worry about the justice work we do. That's what got him crucified. That's what got him put up against, I was just listening to a wonderful sermon by Reverend Dr. Gina Stewart, the first woman to preach at the National Black Conference, Black Baptist Conference. And talking about reminding us that, standing up and holding folks accountable, even the religious community, is what got him in trouble, not feeding people. As long as you're feeding people, people are, when MLK was talking about, rights for the community and all that, then it was all good. When MLK started talking about economic justice and rising up and making sure everyone had access to what they needed, including poor white people, that's when he got assassinated, right? So I think it's important for us to understand, yes, we need to fight hunger at the very first level, give somebody a cold drink of water and something to eat. But we gotta love them enough to want to make sure that down the line, they don't have to wait in line to eat. They'll have enough at their own tables and in their own homes. And that's what we're committed to doing. So Kai was asking, well, what else do you do? So we feed people every single day, while we also do community organizing around community and economic development in particular, having folks register and vote and have them understanding the issues. We don't do partisan politics. We're not telling people who to vote for, but we are saying, these are the issues. This is what we need for our community. Pay attention, right? Pay attention. And that you have power to change the situation. Also politicizing people's experience. We've got a lot of folks who are coming in and out of the prison industrial complex. And so we don't believe in throwing away people. I have children in their late 30s now who have been caught up in the system. I have grandchildren who almost already, my oldest grandchild is 17, I have 12 grandchildren. And so this work is like in my blood, like it's, my skin is in there because I can't allow anything to happen to these beautiful Black children, right? And so this work that we're doing, we also do it around employing and not just teaching, but making space for creativity to arise. So we got a grant with the state, which is a new grant. It's scary because sometimes the grant money's slow and we gotta pay people. And we're committed to paying a living wage. And so, but we were able to hire 12, what we're calling apprentices, through what we call the accompaniment project. So we got a whole bunch of money from the state. Well, I'll allocate it. If we ain't got it, we have to work more to get reimbursed. But it's amazing because we have folks who already know how to do wonderful things. They just don't have access to a business license or to a brick and mortar space. And so we're providing pop-up space. We're providing therapy. We have a therapist that's on staff now through this grant. Connecting the work of, feeding people, economic justice, but also understanding that people need to be well. So we have a wellness center now that's also still connected to the church. It's this church space that we're partnering with. And so we do circles, we do pop-ups, we have people who go there for therapy, we do dance. We're gonna do some carb nights to keep people off the street and maybe inside doing some positive things. If people wanna come and read, we're doing some reading clubs. There's gonna be lots and lots of different ways to connect outside of the kitchen. Not to say that that's not continued important work, but we understand that it's not just one piece, We're trying to address, the whole person. And we started with 12, when for some people might say, well, that's a big grant for 12 people. But the way we designed it is those 12, their families, and whatever we prepare and offer is open to the entire community. So that's where it makes, more sense in that way in terms of how people think about economics, right? So that's really quick and fast. A lot of the things that we're doing, we're part of the Illinois Poor People's Campaign. We were part of the Coalition to End Money Bonds, so we helped to pass the Pretrial Fairness Act and end cash bail. We were on with the Fight 15. We do work around, especially because there's a lot of nursing homes in our community, rehab places. When the union calls us, because we work with SEIU, Illinois Healthcare Union, and they do a lot with these places and caring for our seniors and our vulnerable population, we show up, right, as the faith community to say, we need to pay our folks, we need to give them breaks. We need to have enough staff per floor, because people are hurt or they end up sick or they, all those things. And so really caring about the community and speaking about an abundance that we have access to collectively, right? I talk really fast too, so I'm going too fast.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
Have you, in your community, an influx of the immigrants coming with the buses? How is that affecting you?
So yes, thank you for that question. Our doors open to anyone who comes, right? And it doesn't matter, you can come. You can come, Pastor, dressed in a suit and we will feed you, no questions asked. Because we're not you have to prove you need it kind of place. We have been, the way we've been addressing that is, yes, please come. Not that they've been showing up as much over there because it all depends on where they're located, so they can have housing. So there haven't been as many in our location, but the way we've been trying to be intentional is through the school. Somebody said they went to Gale, so we partner with Gale School, and we're trying to create some ecosystem, right? And so that's the school we partner the closest with. We do urban ag, training with the kids, we work with the teachers. And so our first question was, okay, principal, how can we support you with the families coming in? And how can we let them know of the services that we have so that they know they're welcome to it? Because folks don't always know. If they see we try to eliminate the whole standing out in line and we open early so that they don't do that. But then they just stand in line earlier. So if you're an immigrant and you're not used to a particular population, or you don't speak the language, then maybe you don't know that's for you. So we're being very intentional by letting folks know, by talking to the other organizations and saying, how can we support you? We can't reinvent the wheel. We don't have a lot of resources to take on a whole lot more, but what we're already doing, how can that support you? Because I do want to mention, we actually have to support other programs with our food donations and our cooking too. So, for example, St. Jerome's is a church that's really close to the Latinx community. So I know they're working a lot with migrants. Now, they stopped during COVID, but prior to that, we were helping them with the schedule, but also with food donations to do a feeding program there. Because some people just, there's lines, there's gang lines, but there's also cultural lines and lines we make up in our own head that keep us from accessing each other sometimes, right?
Thank you.
Eleanor?
I am most impressed by you and your work.
Thank you.
Enormously so. I think you're extremely intelligent, you're very well organized, you really have your finger on the pulse of everything. You are a major force in North Rogers Park.
Thank you.
I'd like to know. I'd like to know a little bit about your training background. And also, I have gone down to the school because I have an enormous collection of children's books and so forth, and I have been down to the grammar school several times when the office was over on Marshfield and that was back on John Bull Terrace. And I've also given teaching materials to the group on Paulina Street. I can remember that area of Howard Street in my childhood, it was a hugely vibrant neighborhood. You could buy anything you wanted to except furniture. I mean, it was just a great multitude of stores. First of all, I know we used to have, at one time, there was a tutoring, there were several tutoring programs. In fact, one of our members had bought an apartment building further east on John Bull Terrace and used that exclusively for tutoring. And there was that Good News north of Howard, which and also I'd like to know how many you serve for dinner each day, or how many meals you serve. I mean, during each meal you serve, and how many you generally serve. Do you have a relationship? Is there I know there was a tutoring program a couple of years ago on Marshfield, but I'd like to know what tutoring programs are available. Do you have a relationship with that group on John Bull Street, on Paulina? So I need to know all this information.
So where to start first? So let me just quickly, let me start the tutoring program first, only because when I first got to Just Harvest, it was called the Good News Reading Program. And they used the community kitchen space for the program. The fiscal agent was Howard area. So during a lot of leadership transitions, Howard area took them out of the space and made them a program of their own. And that was the last I heard of that program. They still work with Gale School and kids, but we're not connected to them as much. Now, there's a group called North of Howard. together, and so we are Family Matters, Good News Partner, like we all talk and conspire and collaborate and try to make sure we're not stepping on each other's toes and do all that work. Now, the work that we're doing, like for 3 summers in a row, we were trying to create a freedom school, but again, COVID happened, stuff happens, but we were always blessed to have an intern from Garrett or Northwestern who was working with us, and so they would end their program with some form of reading, and if they were doing urban ag, how to connect it, so we were calling that our freedom school as we were seeding it. Last year, we did a full 8-week freedom school, which included literacy. And so again, in conversation with the school, we want to figure out what do we need to be doing in a more consistent basis? What can we do? What's already happening? So some of those questions we're asking again because of the things that kind of fell off, right? So quickly about my background. Born in Chicago, raised in Cleveland, Ohio. I left home 3 months shy of being 16 and been on my own, not my own, but like away, not being parented. Since I was that age, and I was thinking about that, I was like, wow, that was a long time ago. But anyway, graduated from McCormick Seminary, and I love to tell the story that, you know, how you, and it's in the book, but you run away from your calling, and like, you know, I don't have any money, or I didn't really go to college, I can't do it. Applied and got in, well, that's fine, but I'm not gonna be able to afford it. Well, then they gave me a full tuition scholarship. So like, there was no excuse, right? And then I kept thinking I was coming into some kind of special ed seminary program because I didn't have the, you know, all the things in a row. But it wasn't. It was like a regular, you know. And so there I was, but immediately there was something in me, and I think thinking about my family always being sort of a way station for families from Puerto Rico, even if there was grumpiness around it sometimes and all kind of drama, I think that kind of stayed with me in terms of understanding the need to help one another. So I remember I came to seminary as a single parent of 2 girls. I was engaged, but my fiance stayed in Ohio. And there was another single parent there, a man, and he and I would, you know, swap. Cause I just, one day I just said, hey, I need a babysitter. And if you watch my kids during this class, and I'll watch yours during your class. And that's just how I've always sort of handled things. Doesn't always work because everybody's not sort of in the same kind of collaborative mindset, but that's sort of how my spirit has always functioned. When I came to A Just Harvest, I was pastor at Good News Church, and A Just Harvest was just becoming a nonprofit. It had moved from being a mission of the church for 20 years as the soup kitchen, but people still call it that, and that's okay. We call it our community kitchen. And so when it was becoming a nonprofit, the senior pastor asked me to represent the church in that process, because I had already worked for some nonprofits, had a little experience, and I wasn't afraid to tell folks what they needed to hear. And there was a little bit of a push between our partnering communities, which were mostly white and rich and wealthy, and not in the community, and the community folks who were mostly from the community and wanted to make sure that the relationship that was established was a healthy one, a collaborative one, and not anything paternal, anything ugly happening. And so that's what happened. And you know, here we are 20-some years later, and in the process, I'm gonna write about this someday, but I shifted. There was a growth in me. The community helped me grow, right? From this idea that I'm gonna be the savior and I'm gonna be the hero and I'm a warrior and I'm gonna kick ass and all this stuff. And I still believe that I'm gonna kick ass and make some change, but realize that I'm called to be a healer, not a hero, right? That we are called as Christians to be part of the healing of community, building community. Sometimes that does mean being a warrior, and I don't apologize for that. I'm still a work in progress, so I'm not quite the turn the other cheek person just yet. But I won't instigate fights, but I will defend my people and defend our community, because I think somebody has to. Somebody has to. So that's kind of me. So I went and got a doctorate in ministry around accompaniments, because in that process I learned I can't mama nobody, I can't boss nobody. My own kids don't listen to me. So this is about what, you know, my daughter ended up at the gang, she's got a felony on her record, you know, all these things, right? my grandson lost his father to violence. I mean, we've had like gun violent deaths within our family. And so like realizing how do we continue to walk with people like Jesus did? Without shame, without, further traumatizing, but having a sense of accountability and collective accountability. And knowing that our call is to walk with people on their journey, but the journey is theirs. And there's such a freedom that comes with that, a lightness. I can love you now, and I'm still get mad when you don't follow through, but the anger won't be the same. The anger won't be this kind of, that first reaction of, they don't care, because it's not true. We had one of the guys tell us that he enjoyed being part of this other program we did because it showed the community. We might be out here doing what we do, part of the underground economy. But because of this project, while we're still figuring some of that out, people can see we do care. Because the assumption is people don't care. And they do. And it's not to excuse poor behavior or behavior that's death dealing, but it's to also understand why and how we have a role in interrupting that. Because we say people have a choice, but sometimes the choice is not really a choice. So that's me. Yeah.
Rogers
how many
Park,
do you-
since
Oh,
I live in Rogers Park, and how's the community doing? How's it doing politically, and what are the issues of justice that you're dealing with?
so police accountability is like the biggest thing. I would say the housing is the second. Well, it depends on you. So not letting anyone. Police accountability, housing, of course, and then now with the immigration migrant concerns. Because, we got people living in tents that were already living in tents, and then you got people coming in and getting housing, and so there's the not understanding the different pockets of money, but also I believe there's an intentionality to cause dissension between the Black and brown community always, right? And to choose a sanctuary city and to do this in such a way that causes internal fights. So I think there's some intentionality around that. And Rogers Park has always been very progressive. We've got our first female, Black, queer, alderwoman, and she's amazing. Very community minded, loves to be in conversation and dialogue, doesn't make decisions sort of out of the top of her head. And is willing to be pushed like we need to push. Now, I'll say this, and I'm so glad you asked the question because I didn't want to forget this part of what we're doing. It's exciting. Howard Street and north of Howard where we are, not Joan Way, because over there, my kids will call it, white June Way and then the other parts, right? Are intentionally being disinvested in.
Mm-hmm.
While there is a huge rapid gentrification thing happening right now.
Right.
Okay, and so while we're trying to make sure that the community is safe, make sure that the community is well taken care of, that we're having these conversations to make sure that we're not pushing people out but making change, we're also needing to pay attention to that. So one of the things that Just Harvest is embarking on this year is we're looking for partners. And not necessarily, we're not going after our regular church partners because y'all do so much, but if there are people who are interested, we are putting together an inaugural African Caribbean Diaspora Carnival. And it's gonna start on Paulina, right around Paulina, actually on Triangle Park, we're gonna stage there and then walk up Howard just to Willie White. It'll be short, because it's gonna be April 27th. It'll be short, but it's for us to build on it and then continue to build on it for years to come, but for the purpose of building relationships, visibility, and power.
Right.
Because some of us believe that stretch from Ridge to Rogers at least needs to be an African Caribbean corridor.
Has it become that populated with people from?
It always has been. They just don't have access to resources to start their own businesses. And so we brag about it all day long, about how we have 80 languages and, you know, North Howard has 60. But how many of those folks actually own businesses? The lady who's been selling tamales out of that little orange thing that you put water in and dump it on people during the game, has been selling tamales that way forever. And I don't believe that she would turn away, you know,
Yeah.
a space where somebody can come to her because it's cold outside, because that thing is heavy, because it's been at least 10 years since she's been doing it. She's got freaking tired, right? And so we can brag all day long, but if we're not given access, and if we're behaving, to me, the behavior is very anti-Black around there. And so we're working against that. The strategy is to build and deepen relationships, create space, and then make that fight, because right now, some folks got a grant to do a study, and some of us weren't allowed to be at that table. And then when you look at who's on the table, it's one of the developers that's driving the gentrification. But because they don't take public money, it's okay. No, it's not okay. Because they're coming in, and yes, the property is beautiful. They keep it from what you can see, it looks nice outside, but it's all market rent. What about the people who are like in the middle? You know, where we are is a huge concentration of low income. So I'm not saying let's ghettoize our people, right? I'm saying let's create a space where all of us, even those of us who are teachers or nonprofit people who aren't working at the huge United Ways and aren't making a ton of money, can stay here.
You know, it's interesting, because when I lived in that neighborhood north of Howard, I found out the history. The history was it was German immigrants, and no one really wanted to claim it. I mean, Evanston didn't want it. Finally, Chicago took it on. And it sounds like you've got a different population now, but you still got the same neglect for that one area.
Yep. And we know people personally that have tried to rent and have been turned down in Chicago. And now in that corridor, they're on the Evanston side. So there's a little movement on the Evanston side, especially because they're doing a lot around the cannabis bill and how they're doing I forgot what it's called, but like helping people get money back.
Reparations.
Thing.
Right.
I forgot that. But, and so there's partners that we're gonna be working with, and you know, and again, it's, you know, Just Harvest doesn't have we're not trying to become this whatever, but these are the things we're hearing from community. Anytime I gather with the guys on the block, even if they're still engaged and stuff, the first thing out of their mouth is our kids need programs. They're not asking for anything for themselves. Sometimes we have to remind them, but what do you need, 35-year-old man who wants to take care of his kids, you know? Yes, we need this for the kids, but there's this population that we consider in a lot of, if you look at it, throwaways, because it's too late. It's too late for them. Let's start young. It ain't, because my kids are in that. I'll never say it's too late for them, because I'm not gonna put my kids to hell, right? And so they've all become my kids. Like even the game, the rebranding of the game. When I wrote my dissertation, is love overcomes chaos, because their gang is LOC. And so and actually I tattooed it right here. LOC, I said, love overcomes chaos. That's what we have to remember. Start there first.
Who hadn't?
Andrew hasn't.
spoken.
Okay, you did mention about the different people in that community, and it's true. I am a Ghanaian, and there are a lot of Ghanaians, Nigerians, different West African countries there. When you go to the school, I'm sure there are a lot of kids from different countries there. How are you guys getting them involved to support what you were saying? Because like in the Ghanaian community, I've not heard anything. And it would have been, if they came in and pushed your ideas to the people, because I know there are a lot of people who would be interested in establishing businesses and doing things to.
This is all starting right now, so you can call me tomorrow.
No way.
Please.
Yeah, but yeah, because it looks like all the West African countries have organizations, their little communities, and so when you push it to them, they will be interested to come in and then support what you have going.
Cause it's a way for them to be supported, right?
Mhm.
That's the
Exactly.
idea. The intent is that the businesses are supported, that they can, you know, have access and also just a celebration of the presence. Not that scattered, you don't even know where people are, but that there's a celebration, not just in numbers, right? Oh, 80% languages. Well, okay, where's that money going? Where's the money from the Business Alliance going? Are they going to these? I wanna ask them, are you accessing money from these other places? If they're not giving you resources, why not? And how can we help you? So yes, please call me.
Thank you. A lot of, Nita?
Do you want to comment on your problem of police accountability?
Sure. Oh, and let me just answer the other question. So we serve about 150 a day. Yeah, and, I don't know if that number has shifted because of the migrant issue. It does shift due to weather. And we also started a delivery program twice a week that we did not have in place before COVID. For people who are homebound or seniors, and these are boxes that are made to their sort of order, like these are the things I can eat, these are the things I can't eat. And again, we package everything with volunteers and donations. Sometimes we have to purchase things, which is new for us, but that's, you know, we're looking at that. And the drivers are all volunteers. So again, let's say you can't come to do dinner anymore, but you would, you know, you're not busy during the day, you would love to come and pick up boxes. You don't have to pick them up, but they'll put them in the car, take them to the people. There's different ways to engage if you want to. The police accountability, let me also mention, full disclosure. So I am elected as the district council for the 24th Police District. These are brand new positions.
Great.
In case you don't know, there was a consent decree in Chicago because of all the police violence and all that kind of stuff. And so there's a commission put in place, an interim commission that helped there's 3 council members for each police district. Our only responsibility is to have conversations with the community and figure out what collectively we want to do to keep our to keep our communities safe. And to also begin to figure out how we can have a better relationship with the system that we have, while we also look at systems that might be better for us, right? So I was elected as a district counselor. I have a meeting today at 3 o'clock, as a matter of fact. And the only point is that when we talk about police accountability, we're saying that people shouldn't be stopped for no reason, people shouldn't be intimidated just because you're a police officer. And I can give you an example. When I was doing my doctorate, one of my projects was I would meet every Tuesday with the local guys from the block. I'm not gonna say they were all gang members, but they were all guys from the block, doing their thing. And one of the guys said to me, you know, you guys from these nonprofits, because there's quite a few of us north of Howard, that's the other thing we have to look at, like why? There's just like when there's so many churches in a community and there's still a lot of poverty and violence, it's like, there's all these nonprofits and there's still something missing, right? So anyway, I was having conversations and he said, y'all want us to come up and show up to go to Springfield, you want us to sign your petitions, but when the police stop us for no reason, you'll walk right past us. And I said, what would you like me to do? He said, well, at least stop and make sure everything's okay. I said, okay, I can do that. So of course, a couple days go by. I'm at a store right there, Howard and Bosworth. The store's closed now. And I see the police pull up and put one of the guys who happened to be a church member's son, Good News Church. And so all I said, I came out to the doorway, didn't even come to the car. I stepped out and I said, Chris, are you okay? And the white shirt came to my face this close. Does it look like we're doing something that doesn't he look like he's okay? We stopped him because something, whatever, and God forbid you need us, and just like intimidating. And even though I consider myself pretty courageous and brave most of the time, like he just took me, like it was just unexpected. And so I just stood there like almost in shock, right? And again, because young people are who they are and they have their own experiences with the police, one of the other young people stood up for me and like basically told him to get out of my face in a not very nice way. But that's the point, that we should be able to have conversations, we should be able to ask you a question, or you should be able to ask us a question without intimidation, without profiling. You know, this whole idea that, you know, not allowing people to gather, is a sign of something wrong. When, again, most of us who come from countries, we gather outside, right? We sit under the trees, we play dominoes at the little tables. We're not in our houses, and especially since there's no yards, and, you know, like, we live in buildings. So if we don't want them sort of hanging out, how do we create a space where we're allowing the gathering to be in a way that's again beautifying, but and safe and fun, and so, yeah. Okay. I don't know if that helps, but yeah.
I'll have other hands, Nancy.
I have a question about pop-ups. And, you know, tamales, but, how your brain is filled with so many connections that you've already created. And, so I'm going with that and wanna know the pop-up routine, do you get breaks with the politicians or the village Winnetka, so that you get a really cheap rate? And then what you could do with that, with your circuit of collecting food that hasn't spoiled, you know, join your circuit with a pop-up. Including how to buy your tamales, so that the lady gets to get, you know, a bigger business, and we get to eat them.
I love that idea.
Thanks.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you. And yes, my
Thank
brain
you.
is always, I need a lot of help because I process out loud too. So I'll be thinking things just while I'm talking to you, and like I was gonna write something down. But I'm like,
Could we actually join your circuit of old food and actually, within the process, get the Winnetka folks into your program? You
I
know,
don't see why
how it
not.
goes.
This is how God works. I just got an email from David yesterday, forwarded from someone who's starting a food rescue type of thing, because the Hunger Resource Network, right before COVID and during COVID, she kind of shut down. But they're starting something, and they're asking for our help. So you're saying, you know, how can we partner on that? I'm saying yes, because we've got this new thing, so it's not like we're trying to fit into something where we can help grow it with that idea. And she just happens to be a Loyola student that we were interning, that was interning with us, and so those relationships we talk about.
Yeah, interesting, because there is a for-profit. I heard an interview for one, and she's starting to food rescue. Is the whole thing, I think it's a for-profit company. And she really has gone after it. Even in COVID, they went to serving meals to school kids, had some loss to themselves. It sounded like this wonderful idea that it ought to be done in every community. Because there's so much wasted food.
And also,
The Food Network does that, right? Is that the,
Well, it's brand new, so yes, it's gonna do that.
that's.
Yeah.
but where my son Annapolis area, they have not pop-ups, but commercial storefront, where these kids who are doing this all day go to gather. Can you believe that? And instead of doing this, they're actually playing games, but they're all together
Right.
instead of over in Pakistan and wherever.
Right.
They're socializing,
It all
see
sort
each
of
other.
ties in.
Yeah.
As Jeffrey says, what do you say, Jeffrey? It's in all of us.
And let me just mention that this group that I just said, is doing this, they're creating an app too. So like, we'll know, like, you'll be able to say, hey, hit the app, whatever. Again, I just got the email to say, what do you think? And I'm like, wow.
It may be the same, Alan is connected to the same organization, but I just thought it's such a hugely responsible way of handling what is a problem of waste, and where no one benefits by that, really, that I can think of.
Well,
I guess maybe the people who sell the food.
I do think that we do need to like sort of follow the money, like, no, I need to know more, maybe somebody else, cause I can't know everything. About the farm bill, somebody makes money off of poor people.
Yeah.
Somebody makes money off of surplus of whatever they're growing and then people have to. One of the reasons we had fights with the food depository, and they know it, and I don't care if they see this, was that, you know, you're required to take what they give you and use it. So they were trying to give us recipes for how to make dinner with cornflakes. And I was like, F that, you know, first of all, our partners are providing the meal, and so we don't need this food for our meal. What we are taking this food for is to give it to the community so they can take it home. When they come to the meal and they see, you know, cereal and they need it, they can take it home. That's how we were doing it, right?
But you get frosted flakes, it's not exactly the best thing to be in.
And they were giving us frosted flakes. This was generic cornflakes. And this is why I'm saying, and USDA products, this is why I'm saying somebody's making money off of something. And at some point, that needs to be looked at. The other thing, I have a problem with the for-profit waste collection thing. We need to reduce waste, not find ways to make money to gather the waste and give it to poor people. Because poor people deserve to have their own food and not just the shit that's left over in someplace else. And the other thing, and when I first got here meaning a just harvest, and again, a lot on my brain, a lot happening, more important things, I don't know. I said, one day we're gonna do this and we're gonna have a huge fight with some folks around, because there was a book written that says food banks were never meant to be ongoing institutions. They were meant to be for times of war and famine. Now, when I started with Just Harvest, the Greater Chicago Food Depository was just kind of starting. We were kind of the same age. And it went from a warehouse to a multi-million-dollar industry. Should a food bank be a multi-million-dollar industry? No. Because let me tell you, as many people, y'all know how we feed people. And during COVID, they had access to all kind of money. But because we weren't an official member to their standards, guess how much of that money got passed on to us?
$0.
$500.
Wow.
We're talking, they had access to tons of, and this is not me hating, this is just a reality.
Right.
I went to a board meeting back at the very beginning. They invited me to. One of the board members was chatting me up. I said, how do we make sure we don't lose money to the food depository? Or if we do, how do we get some of that back? And I gave her the example that we had received a letter from a foundation, small foundation, saying that they were no longer gonna give to us. They're gonna give to the food depository because they get a bigger bang for their buck, so to speak, right? And so I said, how does that trickle back down? She couldn't answer the question, and I never got invited back to a meeting. Thank you.
Enjoy it.
So, you know, it's not always peaches and cream, right? I always want to come from a place of gratitude, and I'm very empathic sometimes. It hurts my own body to be this way, for real, right? But I also don't want to be apologetic for loving people enough to say, that's great, but that needs to be temporary. We should not be okay with gathering leftover food. We should do it so it doesn't go to waste, but how do we address the problem? So it's not even, and there are those doing it now, which is why we get less. There are, because of the cost of, what do they call those, like, what do you call it? Like David's saying, suppliers, the chains, the cost of getting placed, you know, because of war and all that, you know, getting something from here to there, there's the shortage of stuff. So it makes the prices go up. So there have been places that are intentionally making less so that there's less waste. And I think that's a better idea anyway. So please don't take this as me saying we shouldn't feed hungry people. And yes, we should get the food and be grateful for it, but I mean, at the end of the day, we want people to have access to fresh, homemade. I can open my refrigerator, I can feed my kids here, they don't have to go someplace else. That should be we do those things while we work towards this goal. and not continue to find ways to build up this empire that feeds on the need of the people.
Right.
You know, we're gonna always need hungry people. That corporation, that for-profit is only gonna be for-profit if they have hungry people. That doesn't feel good to me. While not filling landfills and not wasting is not something that like right now, we're working to make the wellness center a bottle-free area.
A
Right.
what free?
Bottle-free. Like we were giving water bottles away because we were doing to-go lunches. We're gonna stop, you know, of course, now that we're back to inside. Cause we think about that. We think about the styrofoam that we used during this, but we also knew that we had to feed people. So we're not so idealistic to say, oh, no, we're not gonna buy styrofoam, cause it didn't work. Folks who did try to do the more green thing, it wouldn't hold the food, it wouldn't hold the food, so. Yeah.
What I'm hearing so loudly and clearly is that we're feeding the beast at the wrong end. We're taking care of immediate needs and not taking care of the causes of those needs. Right, because if we take care of this end, we wouldn't have to worry about this end.
And I wouldn't say it's the wrong end, because again, we don't want anybody to go hungry while we're doing this other side. We
Yeah.
have to do both.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And COVID has, I think, awakened for those organizations that were more only focused on policy and organizing, like they would not do direct service. Mutual aid became this reality. And now, even as they continue, they've incorporated that, where I think we sort of already had sort of that in place. We're not as strong in the organizing, as, you know, it may sound like it because we have done some great things, but again, in collaboration. All of those things we do are in coalition. The one we're gonna lead is this African Caribbean diaspora. We're gonna lead that, right? And we've got partners in place. The Senator Michael Simmons already on board, so please call me. So there are things that we're gonna lead on that are local, but the bigger things that are gonna be on that other end you mentioned, we do that and collaborate, the Poor People's Campaign. So if you guys wanna come to Springfield in March, that's a way to get at that beast from both ends. We're gonna go, it's all over the nation. Everybody's gonna be on the state cap and their state capital the same day, the same time, on March 2nd. We might be having a bus leaving us just harvest, so if you're interested in going, let me know. I don't think I'm going because I have to be somewhere else, but, we'll have staff going.
This is the National Poor People's Campaign, Reverend Barber and Liz Harris.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're part of the, we as an Adjust Harvest are part of the coordinating committee and not part of the coordinating committee, so.
Okay.
And so our role is to invite all of y'all, right? To come and to be part of it and to say, we're not gonna allow, you know, voices from other religious voices, you know, overpower ours, where we say love and justice has the final say, where you're saying that, well, it has to be rules or it has to be whatever.
Wow, thank you so much, and thanks for coming, everybody. This is a great learning experience.